You are listening to TheFederal. This is Shubhakirtana. On today's podcast, we are going to discuss a topic which is close to my heart, a menstrual leave. As a debate over the demand for paid menstrual leave for women in workplaces get louder, the Supreme Court recently refused to entertain a public interest litigation seeking direction to all the states to frame rules for menstrual pain leave for female students and working women at the workplaces. This has not enthused many. As our workplaces often fail to understand the biological process of menstruation. So, on today's episode, we have with us Miss Malini Saravanan, a senior HR professional with over 25 years of experience. She works for an Indian MNC which has its roots spread across the globe. Thank you so much, Miss Malini, for
Yeah,
joining me on
yeah.
today's episode.
Thanks, Kirtana, for making me to share my views in this podcast.
Right. So, a menstrual leave can be a polarizing issue, for organizations and feminists alike. But many argue that such policies can lead to gender discrimination and reinforce harmful stereotypes that women are physically weak and they're less capable, etc. So, I would like to hear your stance on the issue.
See, there are two things. One, each gender has different kind of a physique, mental, and physical attributes. So this menstruation is very normal and a routine phenomenon for women.
Hmm.
But when you look at women as such, 70% of them, by and large, have less to moderate kind of a pain during the menstruation period every month, and
Mhm.
30% of women would have much severe. By and large, people don't open up, voice out, and share their experience when they are coming to mainstream workforce.
Mhm.
Even myself, when I look back at my career of over 25 years of experience, I
Mhm.
always felt happy whenever I get my menstruation during a Sundays or off.
Mhm.
So it is more comfortable when you have a off. That is what I personally believe. And another thing, when we today's context, when we talk of diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, all those things, when we wanted more women in the mainstream workforce, I
Mhm.
think it is important. We need to exhibit equity. We need to treat everyone fair, and we have to give that space and that separate needs. How do we give that space for differently abled? Similarly, for women
Mhm.
who have these menstruation, which is part of their normal, regular thing, I think it is important we need to give that leave.
Right. So period leaves create an environment where female employees are heard and still respected. So, do you think as a nation we should legalize them?
I think going forward, at least we need to be more progressive. See, when I look back, during my childhood days,
Mhm.
when I was 11 years, my neighbor friends, she was stopped to pursue her education moment she attained her puberty. So
Mm.
this is the kind of a society we are living in. And some places we do not have access to menstrual hygiene aspects. We don't have that kind of an access. Think of people who are deployed on the streets, like people who are working as a public servants, like police, or people who are in manufacturing, or people who are in IT sector. They have to commute for so long, so many hours, almost 2 hours journey to reach their place.
Yeah.
So it is personally and physically very discomfort people experience, but they don't share because they want to stay strong actually.
Mhm.
But with regard to discrimination, I don't think this should be spoken at that level. This is what my view is.
Right. But we all know that there is sexism, and we know that these things are a taboo or these
Mm.
things are a stigma. But the work culture, I'm not making a blatant statement, but in general, say 70 to 80%, the work culture doesn't place self-care on the pedestal. They always they don't insist that this be the regulation for women. And uh, I mean to say that the organizations don't typically advertise it. Why?
One of the reason what I feel is they have not thought about this at all actually. I'm
Correct.
happy Supreme Court has this recent judgment, they have left it actually.
Mm-hmm.
This made us to talk openly now about this particular issue on women's health and menstruation. I think it's an important one of the key right issue,
Mm-hmm.
and this kind of an awareness will make the organization to think on this angle. This is one aspect. Second, most organization, or I would say most of the rules, or all over globe or across, and also in India, most of these things, it's a patriarchal society. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of the decision makers think in the perspective, in the eyes of only men. So it's a patriarchal society. Women are yet to come to the mainstream. So they have not thought about this.
Mm-mm. But there is another school of thought that, if I ask for leave, maybe they will perceive me that I'm a weak person. So I should also put up a very strong face and, be there. Maybe, I mean, how do you see that?
I think, see, what I feel, we need to package the leave. Even as an individual, I would not prefer to ask kind
Mm-hmm.
of a periods leave because the way I was brought up, or
Mm-hmm.
the way I looked at society or myself on these aspects right from my childhood, probably at 11, 12 years onwards. I
Mm-hmm.
used to be very quite normal. I never, felt myself so different during those days. I was normal.
Mm-hmm.
Which usually people have different perspective. These days you shouldn't go this side, that place. So I never
Right.
used to be like that. For me, it is different. But then I will not also prefer to ask periods leave. What I feel, we need to package this leave kind of an additional sick leave, and it's
I
a
see.
choice of the individual to take. It's an option should be given, and companies shouldn't hesitate, should not have any hesitancy to give such kind of a leave. Suppose they have certain kind of a sick leave, they can give additional sick leave. They can have a different nomenclature.
Mm-hmm.
That is how this whole thing can help, to bring that space for women to take care of their health. So another thing,
Mm-hmm.
one of the important aspect I want to highlight,
Mm-hmm.
two aspects. One in terms of school children, and second in terms of working women. In
100%.
terms of school children, lot of school children drop out as they age. The
Mm-hmm.
reason being, in most of the schools, be it in government schools, in most cases, and in some private school as well, that hygiene factor in terms of restroom is not to that kind of a matured level. The number of
Mm-hmm.
students and the number of restroom and the facilities in terms of water facility, maintenance facility. See, the children would face difficult to change. Sometimes they don't even have the restroom facility.
Again.
When you have this kind of leave, it will help them to take care of themselves. That is number one in terms of school children and college
Mm-hmm.
children.
Mm-hmm.
And second, in terms of working women, see, if you see some of the statistics, a lot of women, when they are young, they are in the mainstream workforce. But as they age, as they come to the leadership position, they are not, most people are not in the leadership position. See,
100%. Yes.
we only talk of menstruation at a young people, probably at a school going girl, or a college going girl, or a main initial beginners of in the workforce. But there are a lot of people who are at the middle age people,
Mm-hmm.
who underwent various kind of other things, who have PCOD issues, who have other
Mm-hmm.
gynec related issues, and some people would
Hmm.
undergo long menopause also. So if you want women to continue in the workforce, to progress at a leadership level, to continue till their retirement, I think it is important such kind of leave, like periods leave or a menstrual leave, in the guise of additional sick leave, should be provided. At least 12 to 24 days of paid leave we should give, because we need to be progressive. That is what I believe. In order to
Absolutely.
have women to be more inclusive, I think we have to respect. How do we respect differently able? We have to have that space for women also who undergo that kind of a pain during those months, or
Right.
periods,
Right.
during those days.
Right. I would just like to quote a couple of statements. Of course,
Mm,
I'm not going to name who they are,
mm,
but I spoke to a top IT firm.
mm,
the spokesperson says women don't ask for it, but if they insist, we give them. But they don't come to the office. They ideally work from home. So they have an option to take leave, but compensate it later. Shouldn't we shouldn't the paid leave be there? Don't you think it's an entitlement that, hey, I have the right to avail of this leave? But it's always you take rest, but you have to compensate. It's always this you have to compensate. That word is always there. How do you see it?
I think when we bringing this kind of a leave itself, there is no kind of a compensation. I think it's an entitlement for that person to take that space out or
Right.
to take care of themselves actually. So even if they're working from home, they need that kind of a rest for that particular 1 or 2 day.
Hmm.
So I think we shouldn't talk when we do. See, I will take, I'm just giving one analogy in this context.
Mhm.
Way back when people thought women, they are only good at domestic duties and they have to take care of the children. So 25 years back or 30 years back, not many women went out for work. They used to be only being at home.
Hmm.
Then I would say probably when this maternity act came, then later on in 2017, this maternity benefits, which from 12 weeks to 26 weeks went on, I think it helped people to, come back after their maternity as well.
Hmm.
And some 25, 30 years back, a lot of people have apprehension, when we engage women, will they be reliable? Will they be
Right.
expensive? Will they continue? Will they
Mhm.
leave, quit and go because of marriage?
Hmm.
But now today, a lot of women are going to mainstream workforce.
Hmm.
So very few people wanted to be stay at home.
Right.
Lot of 90% of women after their education they want to go for a job.
Right.
That's the complete shift which has happened in this 25, 30 years.
Hmm.
Similarly, today we talk of this issue, which is not been much spoken actually. This itself is a beginning. Probably in another 10 years or 15 years, this would be a norm. This
Sure,
additional
but
self-care leave can be given clubbed with sick leave. If men, other gender wanted equity or equality because of this, they can also have additional self-care leave. I think we can be magnanimous on that.
right, right. I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but that makes me ask you a question
Uh,
that the concept of maternity leave has been normalized. Okay, that is
mm,
normal. But the
yes.
concept of menstrual leave has not been normalized yet. But in general, why are women hesitant to take period leave? But are they aware in the first place? I mean, I'm talking about the general workforce. I mean, are women aware in general that they have this liberty?
No, I don't think people are aware. I think this kind of a dialogue will help people to become more aware of this. They are
100%.
not aware. They are not aware. Number one, they are not aware of this kind of a leave.
Hmm.
Second, they still consider this as a big social stigma. It's a dirty or a shame thing to not to share.
We are in
I know.
2023, but people keep saying this, right? We have progress as a society. This is 2023. Everything has changed, but deep down, nothing has changed really.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mm.
Because still in rural and urban places, no, still during these times, no, the girls or the women are kept, separately during the periods time. Still, that continues across in most of the villages or even in cities.
Hmm.
Still, it is there, and it is very difficult for women to share that, I want off 1 day off because of this.
Hmm.
But I think it is important that they can put it in a nice way. I am not well. I wandered off. Nothing wrong in it. So I'm recalling a year back or so when I was little disturbed because of a personal issue.
Hmm.
I sent a text to my boss stating I am not okay mentally. I would like to take leave
Hmm.
today. And I think it is important we need to be more open and transparent and communicating our issues. That would help the organization to be sensitized with the issues faced by employees.
Hmm.
Once we are open, only people would come across, would know about the realities. Lot
Hmm.
of, like I mentioned, no, 70% of women would have mild to severe, but nobody discloses what they
Right.
undergo.
Right. Hopefully there are conversations around this topic. And then last question to you.
Hmm.
We should, at this point in time, I think we also need to talk about sensitizing and educating men,
Hmm.
right? So,
Hmm.
in what ways do you think it can be done? Because they always say that you can get things done because you're a woman. Things can be done easily because you're a woman. They think things are there on the platter, which is a very wrong opinion to say, but unfortunately, that is what is happening. So how do we sensitize men?
See, I feel each gender has their own needs and necessities and requirements. I think it is important that we need to respect that. If I'm only asking to the men community as such, they wanted space or comfort or more sensitive world for their daughters, their sister, their spouse, their mother, and whomever their women friends, and when it is so, I think it is important even for those they don't know also, it is important that they need to be
Mhm,
respectful and understand, be sensitized
mhm.
about their difficulties or whatever challenges they undergo in terms of physical health and emotional health.
Thank you so much for this insightful chat, Miss Malini, and wishing you a very happy Women's Day in advance.
Thank you, Subhakirtana, for calling me and making me to share my perspective. Thank you so much.